Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Vagabond Dog Industry Chats. Today's special guest is Terri Vellmann, indie game developer extraordinaire. You probably best know him for most recent hit, Sludge Life, which is a graffiti. An open sandboxy graffiti kind of game. You go as a tagger. You want to hit all these spots, and the sort of world kind of sucks you in because it's like hyper stylized is the best way. I'm doing a very bad job of explaining the game, but
Pretty good, I think. I like it.
yeah, it's a pretty great experience. I had a lot of fun trying to find and get to all 100 of the tagging spots. It's a bit of a return to that classic like collector kind of mentality,
hmm
um, and like it's a good pace. But the thing that really sold me on the game is the incredible style, which is something else. And other games you worked on, my personal favorite is High Hell. Is a very I want to say compact first person shooter where you are I don't want to give any spoilers away, but a a, a, a woman going on a rampage against a corporate entity of sorts, taking it's a fast paced first person shooter, kicking down doors and shooting very fast and good. Also super hyper stylized. And then we've got Heavy Bullets is where I first encountered your work, which was
hmm
um, an interesting twist on the roguelike first person shooter. I mean, it's actually really early in the roguelike renaissance, in the
Right.
return, where you're a first person shooter, you've got a revolver, the bullets fly out, and then you gotta recollect them. You can't just pick up the bullets like ammo. And then you also contributed to Disc Room, which uh,
Yeah,
was
that's true.
last year's big release. Uh, beat Heavy Bullets last night, being on a Terry kick. Yes, very well done.
Mm.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been trying my best to come up with a through line to explain the sensation I get of playing one of your games, or like the singular thing that draws me in, and it is kind of difficult to quantify, or to pinpoint what it is, but it is this. There's always an element of non. It's not. I want to say punk, but it's not. It's not like punk music. Punk. It's like there's a rebellious spirit to it. Always with some
Right.
anti-establishment theming within the game. Um,
hmm
I'd say maybe except for Heavy Bullets, that's a little more abstract in its presentation. Um, but I guess that's where I want to start with this conversation. Is how would you describe your aesthetic if you had to put it into words? It's such a terrible thing to have to do, but
I do think about it a lot because a lot of the criticism, I don't know if it's really criticism, but it's just like the thoughts that people have when it doesn't click for them. It's something that I have heard from the things that inspire me that I love and that I loved growing up. So it never really does anything for me. Like I don't really it doesn't really affect me in a negative way. I just kind of see that same cycle that I've with comics that I liked and music that I liked that people would say it was like shitty or it was crappy, it was like lo-fi or something. But the connection that I had with that work, I always saw like that's exactly the same thing that people are saying about my shit. So I do see the connection there, like
mm-hmm.
the the low fineness that you're really not trying to over polish or get out the details right. It's really just the general vibe and feel of it. So where it comes from is just from, I guess, personal limitations, and just natural. interests, and just kind of grows pretty organically. I don't really try any
Mm-hmm.
style. It just kind of comes together. I do have like a background for drawing. I've been doing murals and drawings for a long time. But when I got into games, I started doing 3D modeling. But that was like really new and really hard. So especially with like heavy bullets, it was really minimal just because that was way easier for me to make stuff. But then it really worked because it also allowed me to actually finish the game because it was so simple, you know. So I just kept to the formula. 'Cause I do have like this mantra of trying various things, and when it works, keep doing it. When it doesn't, you just move on and try something else. You know?
Yeah, this is a lesson I've heard echoed from other indie devs too, and something I've started I tend to agree with, is that it's not always the most effort that yields the best result. Sometimes,
Yeah.
just doing what you can is good enough, and actually the best choice, because you get through that hurdle of completion and actually getting finished. But then I'm
Also,
curious.
like
Yes, go on.
yeah, like with art, you can have this hyper realistic painting, and you can look at it, and then there's like a doodle that's just kind of funny, and the doodle can be much more interesting for you, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's just like a napkin doodle or something. And I think about it a lot.
Right, because there's no, like, that's the subjectivity of expression,
Yeah.
right? Like, everybody can enjoy something in a very different way, and
Yeah.
it I find often that the low effort entry, often it's stripped of the extra, um, and it can really get to the root of like what you're trying to communicate. The games I've made where I've tried the least and just tried to communicate one simple thing rather than big
Mhm.
sprawling opus. It tends to hit a little more easily. Not saying anything's better or worse, but if you're trying to communicate something, it's definitely better to go for the low impact approach. But all of that said, then, is this a practice that you carry out perpetually, or are there aspects in your game design and development that you do really try? Like, where do you really put in the extra effort, and why?
I guess just the game feel. I think I put a lot of time, and it's just through my personal play testing, and you just kind of feel like something should move or react a different way, and just fine tune it a lot. I think that's what I spend a lot of time on, and a lot of it ends up just becoming, I guess, for the player, just the base where they can feel that it's working, but they won't see it specifically as a feature or something different, but it's kind of the base of it. And that's something I spend a lot of time on. And just because I'm just playing a lot, and it just comes to you like, the movement here isn't clicking or jumping. You just look at a scene, you're like, I should be able to jump through this window or something like that.
Right.
It's just a lot of that.
It's kind of interesting that the part you put the most effort in is relatively invisible, and the part you put less effort in is the is
Yeah.
the visible part. Um,
And then there's like a lot of boring stuff, just like save games and input
really.
and localization. That takes a lot of time, but I don't know how much I put that as part of the creative part of making
Mhm.
games. That's just like more like a working, get the gears working or something.
Right. I mean, I feel like those parts of making games are like the math side, where there is a definitive right answer. Like, can you save the game or not? And there's no,
Yeah,
it needs to get done. You can't if and or but. You can't art art weasel your way out of it. It's got to be.
yeah. It does take a lot of time usually.
Do you find it a challenge to like switch into that gear and like um, grind that part out, or is it just as easy for you?
That's fine. I mean, I just go back and forth. I don't really spend too long on any side of it. I
Hmm.
usually just do a little bit and then go back to something, either art or just level design or whatever, and then do another chunk of something. Because I do like doing it. It's kind of weird, but I do like doing it. I like doing UI. I actually enjoy it, and getting out the sound in it, that can be a lot of work as well. Just like the how it works and the music, but it's fun. And like once you get it done, it feels so like such a lot of progress, right? You get like a system in and you play again and you go back to your old build and it just feels like you made so much progress. When you're making art, it doesn't feel as much usually.
Hmm.
It's just like a little by little. But the system you get it done, it's like a big check mark in this case.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things is also you end up spending a lot of time, like, especially if your game is artistically driven, right? You spend a lot of time with those characters and the aesthetic. That's kind of like, is it pervasive throughout the entirety of your development? Do you kind of have like a relatively formalized view, or finalized view of the aesthetic and the world when you start production? Or
Oh no,
no? Okay.
not at all. No, not at all. I don't think any of, I guess Disc Room maybe. Disc Room, I you could kind of tell what the game was when I
Mm-hmm.
started working on it because that already came from another game that they had before. The team had the humble version, which was Red Disc Room, and they had their ideas. But every other game, I had no idea what the game was when I started working on it. Like Heavy Bullets was gonna try to make a first-person shooter, and then I was into the roguelike stuff at the time that got in, and then Heavy Bullets happened. But I could not sketch it out like at first. High Hell was like trying level design tools. I just wanted to experiment with the brush base level design tool. And then the game came from that. And Sludge Life was similar. I was just kind of started building it, and then it came to us as we made the game.
Right. Then do you scrap a lot of projects?
Yeah, yeah, a lot of them,
So then
a
what?
lot,
How do you?
too many.
Too many. At what point do you decide that something is worth a final project? This is something that happens to a lot of serial game devs.
I guess when I see that the problems, or either I can see the path to completion is something I'm still interested in, and then I just stick to it. Or like for High Hell, it was just that I was taking too long because between them, I think I spent a couple years just failing and throwing stuff out. At the time, I was still working as freelancer, so it wasn't like a huge deal financially, but it was getting frustrating, and it drove a lot of the minimalism in high hell because I was like, no, like this one I'm gonna go all the way through, and I did, but it's like a really tiny game for that reason, just because I wanted to spend a year on it and finish it, you know, no chance of ditching it, so that was kind of the driving force there. But I also did not know what the game was until like halfway through it.
I mean, from the heavy bullets to high hell days, to sludge life, I feel like the profile your profile has sort of grown. Do you feel like you're at that point of stability now where you can just f- feel confident to just continue creating, and it's fine if you're scrapping more projects, or are you still is it always a question of wondering when we got to find that next game?
I think I'm good now for a couple of years, um, at least like another game. But during Sludge Life, I was definitely thinking a lot about getting a job if it failed, because like it did not look like the game was really gonna click, or people were just not gonna get it, or it was just gonna be like a little thing that maybe an indie scene would be into, but it would not make money. But Devolver got us the Epic deal, and that just kind of saved the boat, I guess.
Right. And that
It's still pretty. There's a lot of instability still.
Right. So, I mean, I don't want to talk about like specifics of a deal or anything, but the stability that brought you, how did that change your process into getting to finalization?
Well, that was after the game was done
Oh,
when we
really?
got the deal. Yeah, the game was done. We were gonna release it like anyways, but it just worked out and we just went with it.
The
But throughout the whole thing, we were just kind of going with whatever. We actually got Devolver involved like really late. I should have talked to them way earlier, but they're always cool about it. They're always really into specifically saying that they just want to get us making more games.
mm-hmm.
That's always the thing that they talk to me about. So and they they went through with the word and it worked out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, having a catalog, I'm sure you see the difference in having one title out, even an old title now. Having multiple titles out is sort of the real path to stability as a developer. I've found
Yeah, yeah, that as well. Yeah, for sure.
going from one title to two to five has been
Yeah.
is a huge changer.
That was also something I kept thinking when we got High Hell done, because I could have had like three other ones, even if they weren't super successful, they could be, you know, just having their long tail and paying rent and stuff. For
Mm-hmm.
sure.
When do you decide to throw out a project? Then what is it is if you've got some level of stability, is it just interest in it, or insurmountable challenges, or what causes them to hit the bin?
I guess I just saw something else. It's just the basic old new idea. I've already thrown one out since Sludge Life. Like it just I think part of it is just you want to play with, like I said, I want to play with level design. So I played with level design for High Hell, and then it became a whole game. But sometimes, like you play with it, and then okay, that's it. You don't really want to make the rest of the game or whatever. I made this one. It was kind of Resident Evil-ish, so it had like the walk with the fixed camera and stuff. And then I got to the inventory, and I was like, nah, I don't want
Right.
to do the inventory. It was
Right.
just it was a challenge that I wasn't interested in figuring out at the time. So I just moved on. Not It's not like I decided to stop working it and doing something else. Like you just stop kind of not being as excited and suddenly you have another idea and you make a new project and it's hard to go back to a project I think after you ditch it for a long time for various reasons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's like landing the needle in the record, right? You got to stay in that groove until the song's done. Otherwise, you're gonna never really
Yeah.
find your place again. Um,
Yeah. I did release like all of these prototypes on my itch thing. They're like completely broken, but they're there.
do you, so I mean, do you? I know devs who do that, but then if one of their itch prototypes gets traction, then it reignites that excitement. Um, do you care much about how people are receiving the in progress work or the incomplete work, or are you purely it sounds to me like you're very driven by an interest in exploring certain game dev aspects or tools, more than what you think is potentially commercially successful, if your worries about Sludge Life are to be.
I mean, I'm interested in seeing their reaction, sure, but it doesn't drive me to complete the game. Just that's not because the game is a long time. Like you take up
Mhm.
like a year to finish a game. So I just really have to enjoy the process. Definitely really process oriented in general.
Does that come
Like I gotta
from art?
enjoy.
Does that come
Yeah,
from your visual
yeah,
art days?
yeah, for sure. From actually quite literally having artists who were, you know, trained or they were taught, sitting down and saying this is what process oriented art is, and me being like, okay, cool, and kind of taking a lot of that just into my life in general. Um, but it took a lot because as a freelancer, I had clients, and I really hated having clients and having to talk to people. I don't really care about people asking me to change stuff for whatever reason. Like I would do it because it's a job, but being having the possibility of just doing whatever I want is really valuable to me for sure.
Right. It it's interesting then that I mean you have a very very strong partnership with Dos on all four
Yeah,
games. Um,
yeah.
I think some of the answer is obvious, but how do you differentiate the partnership of like a freelance job versus the sort of creative partnership that you guys have?
I guess I get a lot of energy from him
Mm-hmm.
because he's like a very I don't know how to describe it. He's just one of those people who they give you energy just from talking or from their work and stuff. And I'm more of like a quiet. I'm communicate through drawings instead of talking and kind of don't really show excitement. Usually people hate that about me that I'm not like big news. I'm like yeah cool, but we kind of drive off of each other and I just love his work. Every time he sends me something like yeah I get back into the game and edit and all of that. And I also have problems with writing. Like I have a hard time finalizing writing. Like I can dump ideas, like a lot of it, but actually getting it into something that would be like a narrative or a dialogue, I have a hard time with. And those also helps with that a lot. Actually does most of it. Because I just kind of dump scenes and characters and he wrote most of Sludge Life, like most of the dialogue, so that we kind of just feed off of each other. And also his other games, like the other project is on, was exciting to me. And just having more projects with him also means that we get to hang out more and just talk more during the process. So it's always worth it as well.
Right. The do you find that it is? I mean, with the disciplines so split, do you find that there's like do you ever have a creative compromise or is it like that? I find partnerships where everybody's bringing a very strong capability on one end or the other um, tends to go a lot smoother than you know two people that play guitar.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I mean, he does whatever he wants music wise.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's a big design reason for me to ask him to do something differently. I don't think I've ever asked him to change anything or he just does what he wants and that's it. He, because like I'm not really hiring him to do the music for my game. Like he's the musician for the game. He does his music. Like it's not, I don't have anything to do with that. But game design and writing, we go back and forth a lot, but it's more almost like a brainstorm, just kind of seeing if something better pops up while we're going back and forth than anything else. And it's really friendly. Like we don't have any disagreements really. Like something like if he really wants something or if I really want something, usually one of us will just be like, okay, just do it your way because you care more or something.
Right.
It's never been an issue.
Right. Passion is usually a good indicator of it being worth something.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean the other side is just technical. Sometimes if I can't do something technically, I would be like I just can't pull that off, and he understands every time.
um, I'm curious when you are in the depth of development. Do you find it relaxing exciting, or entertaining?
Um, I think all three. I- Yeah, definitely all three. Um, lately it's been relaxing a lot because I don't have that much time anymore with I got a kid and we're at home, she's not in school and everything. So like when I get to sit down on the computer and just do the computer thing, it's quite relaxing and it's just a few hours a day. But it's also exciting usually when there's other people involved. It gets exciting like those or when you're showing off to someone else or there's like a milestone coming up or something like that. And it can be entertaining as well when you're not pressuring yourself and just kind of going with whatever and just trying to find something, especially because our games are usually kind of lighthearted or just funny or comedic. So just trying to come up with these jokes can be quite fun for us as well. And sometimes I write them down or sketch them out and forget about them, and then I find them later. So that's also some good moments there.
Um, do you find that a lot of your ideas find their ways into sketches? I mean, I'm curious to know a bit more about your artistic background and that path into game dev as well.
Just drawing. So drawing various types of drawing. So drawing on computer, on paper, on walls, on things. I've drawn a lot of different things just for work and personal projects as well. And I had like I guess 10 years that I had a studio with a friend just working from home and we did museum work, we did advertising, which was usually what paid us. But our time was really split among different things. We did a lot of stuff that did not pay at all, but just because it was interesting projects and things like that. And through that, I guess I kind of found different characters and scenes and vibes that I kind of go back to a lot. So a lot of the Sludge Life characters, I haven't like I hadn't named them or put them in a scene or anything, but I had sketched them out like many times before actually making Sludge Life. It was just like a reoccurring character or just static or something. So at first it was kind of awkward because of the whole 3D thing. I had a hard time translating my drawing style to 3D, but it was also fun because it was different. But I think Sludge Life kind of got a bit nearer to my natural output in drawings and stuff because it literally had drawings as well, but the characters kind of got a bit closer there, so it was easier in some sense to build out the world and the narrative and all that.
You mentioned graphic novels and comic books. What's your history and passion with that side?
So I don't make them because like I said I can't write, so that's always been like a thing I've tried, but it's I don't make them, but I was into the superhero stuff when I was a teenager, and I guess when I was like 17, I got into like Robert Crumb and Daniel Close and Chris Ware, a lot of these American guys, some Brazilian as well, and it was just kind of mind blowing. And I just never got into superheroes again. I don't care about them at all. And also like some really I guess they could be kind of shitty because they're kind of um, just really how can I say just like Johnny Ryan stuff, the Angry Youth comics, which is just obscene and just kind of I don't really like them that much, but they had this aesthetic that was really just being
Yeah,
weird and gross and kind
yeah.
of disgusting, and I was really into it at that time. And since then, other stuff has come up that I've been into maybe even more, but it was really defining. And I was definitely into the music as well, like the punk stuff. um, local bands. And I was huge into Fugazi. It was like, I like Fugazi. It was like the 17-year-old me favorite band. I thought that they were like perfect. But that also drove into, all other types of music, and I got into rap and jazz and all that. So definitely moved away from just like the mainstream. Even if it was like rock was just kind of conservative a lot of times, and I was just not into it. And superheroes the same thing, like those type of comics.
Hmm. Hmm.
But video games, it took me a long time, and I think it was when the recent indie, guess like 2012 or something, when it was like on the getting attention again, that I caught onto it. And as soon as I did, I was like, okay, I gotta get into this as well, which was when I actually started making games. It was like that side of media that I had not seen. And so I kind of put two and two together, in some ways.
When you made that decision to jump from visual to video games, what did you find? Like, what was your path? What were your first steps? And then, like, what surprised you about it?
I just had a lot of free time because I was doing well freelancing, but there was like weeks at a time where I would just answer emails or just draw whatever, and not really. I just had free time, and I started learning making games, not really expecting to make it a career or really release commercial anything. But I had this project where I was making animated GIFs, and I would just put them on a website, and it was not, and I was trying to not make it commercial like at all. So I would get offers to paid work, and I was like, no, this one I want, because I was really tired of clients. I wasn't tired of the money, but like having to talk with them
Right.
and make their changes and follow their briefs. So I did that, and it was just like occasionally I would put a GIF in there, and at the same time I was learning 3D modeling and Unity and just kind of getting into it and having fun with it. And it was actually those GIFs that Jonathan and Dennis from Hotline Miami, they emailed me. They were like, "Hey, can you make one for our game, like for the website?" And I was like, "Yeah," because like I was already into it. I really like Hotline Miami, so it was like a easy yes. And it was not the same as getting like a client work from
Right.
like a brand. But that was also when I got to talk with Devolver, right? And I had Heavy Bullets, which was like a freeware type game. I was like just kind of building it, and I sent it to them, and suddenly it became like a real thing because they were like, "Hey, we want to publish it." So I had to like finish the game. It was also when I got in touch with those one because they had already. I don't know if they had released the game with those one, but they had the relationship with him through something. I don't know what, but they put us together, and you know it worked out.
Oh, that's
It's kind of accidental, I guess.
right. It's as I find a lot of the things with Devolver happened to be happenstance and good fortune, and so on and so on.
I guess it was also like a just the right timing because they were not yet. I guess there wasn't that many games yet, and they hadn't released that many games, and not every there wasn't as many games coming out as they like right now. They probably didn't get as many pitches and
Hmm.
all of that. So much that when I was making Heavy Bullets, I think if there was a first person shooter roguelike, there was like one or two. It was not like a whole genre. My inspiration was probably like Binding of Isaac or something. It was not something super elaborate. Actually, don't really like the path that roguelites took that much. I was more into the rawness of the that phase like 5 years ago or something.
What changed? It's not a genre that I particularly follow.
I think they're like really polished, and they have like this structure where you're like you play, but you're always unlocking stuff,
Right.
and it becomes like this other game where you're unlocking. And I just really like picking up a game and playing for 50 minutes and dying, and okay, it's good. Play something else and then coming back to it. I guess you
Mm-hmm.
can still do that, but it just feels different. And it's like they're really polished now, and I kind of get inspiration from lo-fi stuff for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess lo-fi stuff makes other people, especially those that don't really know what they're doing, they can kind of feel inspired of trying stuff. Like when it's really polished, it's just like on a pedestal, but it's like kind of crappier. You can kind of feel like you could do it too. I think there's some value to that.
This is
Does that make sense?
yes, no, 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 no. It does make sense, but I'm also I'm trying to now. I'm trying in my head to nail down where does the people don't who don't accept lo-fi stuff typically want the high bar standard. They either
Right.
they only play AAA super polished games, and they expect that
Yeah.
as a bare minimum, right? But I don't think you can like get. I think there's definitely obviously there's always exceptions, but I think you have to have like gone through this like uh, consumption of super polished stuff to realize how kind of samey it all gets at the end of the day. It's like the superhero comic thing, right? I'm very similar.
Right.
I read a fuck ton of superhero comics when I was a teenager. Eventually, you realize it's the same like four stories being told over and over and over again. And the art is always relatively the same, and then you start getting into weirder and weirder and weirder stuff. Were you a big but you said you came into games like kind of late in the like in indie games. Did you play a lot of games
Yeah.
before then?
Yeah. Yeah. All my life, but mostly computer games. I did play some console stuff. I had like a PlayStation and a 360. I did play a lot of AAA stuff. Once I guess Xbox Live Arcade was a thing. I played a lot of those. Spelunky was huge for me, but I still did not see games as something I could do, and I don't really have an explanation for it. It just never popped up. Like I was just did not know it was a thing. And games for everything that's difficult, it's also it was kind of surreal at first that you could actually sell stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because like if you only make games, you don't really know what it's like to try to sell like a drawing or an
Right.
animation or photo or music. It's like absolutely no one's buying any of that stuff usually. It's just like the huge corporate stuff that gets bought. But games, people actually buy these games even if they're lo-fi. So I usually don't really think about the people who only want the AAA stuff. Like they're a huge part of the gamer audience, I guess. But like the people who do like the lo-fi stuff and support it, it's like pretty substantial, and it's not really a lack of audience, I guess. You still gotta find those people and reach them, but they're there, I think.
Yeah, Dose mentioned something similar about how like selling music was like what here, and then when he got the opportunity to sell games, and like super appreciative of the fact that there's there's a market for it, which is
Yeah.
like, man, we can complain all day about how saturated it's become, and how consistently tough and more tough it's going to keep getting, to have a financial stability in this industry. But people do buy games in a way that other
Yeah,
artists
I would
doesn't.
do mural gigs that we'd spend like 10 days painting all day, like, and we get like $50 a piece for the work. It was that
Mm-hmm.
like that level of things. And then there was advertising that paid like really well, but it was advertising, so you always felt like you were going to hell for your work or something. It was like super terrible, but it paid, and it was like a weird balance where you're like, why why are you complaining about this? They're paying you to draw, and then like, yeah, but it's shitty drawings or
Hmm.
something. And then video games are like, you if you can sell, you can actually make actual good video games or something that you actually like. So there was definitely that side to it that really drew me in. And I also like that in video games you can wear a lot of hats, because I'm not like a specialist at all. Like I like doing different things and like tinkering, just trying and like trial and error and all of that. Like I'm not like I don't never been into school and lessons. Like never worked for me. I just gotta kind of get my hands dirty,
Hmm.
and you can just download stuff for free and watch some YouTube videos and start making games. It's like brilliant.
Where does your inspiration when you go to that trial and error mode? Are you trying
Hmm.
to? Do you have an idea for like how a mechanic works, or are you just curious about a tool, or like where does that throughput of inspiration to actually like wanting to dive in?
I think there's playing with the tool. There is a lot of that, and also there is some trying to figure out how something works, but that's usually driven by wanting to actually make the game. So at first it would be how to make a little character move or something. Then when you get past that, it's like scenes and structures and save games and input. And then at some point you start getting into the game feel and actually trying to make something interesting in general. But it's still just kind of weird. Like Sludge Life, the whole thing that everybody says about completing the game and getting 100 tags, it was just totally just at the end we were like, okay, I guess we gotta do something here. We gotta wrap up the tags just because
Hmm.
we can't just have the game, you know, going forever or just not do anything, leave it off. And then we did the to-do list, which was like the achievement system. It
Hmm.
was like the very last thing, barely typed through, and it ended up being like from the first day, people would just go through the whole thing, and I think it helped a lot. I think because people have this training,
Hmm.
maybe from playing other games, so that kind of gave them some closure or something. Like, okay, I finished the game, so I can process my feelings towards it or something. Because like the whole time we were making it, we were like people are just gonna play until they're bored with it and close it and just go do something else. But it was like a really unrealistic expectation. I think people actually want to go through the whole thing, see what they've
Hmm.
done, what they can do, get the endings,
Well,
and
I
it was
do.
kind of accidental.
It is a game that I think invites that level of exploration because there's so many little hidden nooks and crannies of little bits and pieces, right? Like there is a definite expectation. I mean, for starters, you give players a list, right? There's just something
Yeah,
about gamer brain that's like I have
right.
to do, right? Like you have no this is what
Uh-huh.
I'm here for, and they fall into that really well. But I think Sludge Life in particular is this, like find the weird, cool, hidden thing that you didn't know was there is the game, right? Like that's really where it shines and you have the most fun. So when you give people a list, gamer brain takes over, and then the mode of the game sort of like enhances that with like this intense curiosity of, well, there must be the ultimate hidden thing. Um,
Yeah, I think it's similar to like when you get this experimental music, but like it doesn't have a beat or something. And it's like an hour long. And it's like some people will get into it. Maybe they've been through other experimental shows like weird jazz stuff. Some of them are like super boring, right? and then you get like a drummer and he actually does like a beat and it's like okay, I can groove to this is fun. Maybe in some ways that game structure is like the beat where you can actually okay, this is moving along and something like that. But I play a lot of these games where you just run this thing, there's no title screen, there's nothing, you're just exploring a space and you never get this closure. So I was kind of in this vibe and I was trying to make something like that, but not doing it I think paid off, I guess, for a lot of people who are not familiar with those type of games.
Yeah, it's like the indie game playing community at large will always gladly say that they like the interpretive loose way of handling things, but when you actually get down to like brass tacks on looking at the numbers of what people play, how long they play, all these things, it's really, we really do as humans need that drummer, right? Like
Yeah.
it's almost inescapable. You try and give them a bad ending, and people, like intentionally be like, "Here, feel bad about this," and then they don't like that, or you end up
Mhm.
with a game like Animal Crossing where you can just play it forever and then you just put it away when you're bored, and everybody leaves with a bad experience because ultimately it's like I grew the final conclusion is I grew bored of this, and people don't want that or like that, and I hate that because it limits what we can do making games so much, right? Like I want to be able to feel free to just give a player whatever I want to give them, but they're not going to like it because it doesn't follow
Yeah.
it doesn't have a drummer. And
Yeah.
it's not a superhero playing a drum.
But there is like, I guess, an acquired taste to a lot of these. It's just not gonna have like a huge audience. And also, I got like I would get people who were like, this game, I really liked it, but it's really short. Like I did everything in 4 hours, and I was like, holy shit, 4 hours? That's amazing. I thought it was gonna be like 1 hour or something. So like the expectations in length, it's also really, I don't know if I hope someday I make a game where people are like this is way too long. This game doesn't end or something. Because like people do expect the game to go on for a long time as well.
Uh,
And
Wombat
I'm
in the
like the
yeah,
opposite. I want the game, yeah,
Wombat in the
just
chat
get it
mentions
over with and get out of here.
uh, he says that picking up an experimental game is real effort because you have to open yourself up to it, I assume figuring it out, learning and understanding the game before you can even begin to enjoy it. And when people go to game, it's they don't want that work, even if it is good work,
Yeah,
like he says. Um,
yeah. I where I used to live, I here I'm somewhere else, but in São Paulo there was like a lot of jazz concerts, and I really like going to them. And like a lot of them were incredibly boring, like the worst. You just drag on for an hour, but and then a lot of them were okay, just kind of. And then some of them were like mind blowing, and when you got the mind blowing ones, just kind of randomly, even all the other ones, you start liking them because they're all part of like this thing. They're all connected, I guess. I guess video games, when you start experimenting, there's just comes with it. Like some of it's not that digestible, but part of it.
right, it's starting that acceptance of like the finite nature of that performance, right, is part of what makes it super special and enjoyable, right? This jazz performance is, you can't replicate it. If you're not here at this
Yeah.
moment right now, you're never going to enjoy it. um and I think if
The
we did.
thing is, I also think like when you start going to them, like you get the boring one, and usually you would be like, okay, should I be liking this? They people like this. Is this good? Is this what jazz is? Is this? But it doesn't like maybe some other people like it, right? But you can be honest with what you're feeling about it. But um, there's definitely part of the experience is like the whole like just keep going to it and talking with other people, like go with your friends, and just you start feeling differently about it as you grow your taste as well, your references and all that. And I think that goes for any medium. Like if you get into like, you know, death metal or whatever, the person probably had steps, you know, to get into the whole screaming thing, and it wasn't like they were listening to some pop thing and they were like 20 and started listening, you know.
Right.
So maybe these games is the same thing.
We follow down the road to its
Yeah.
the end, the absurd end we hit. Um, it,
And then maybe like the one band that does make something that's more mainstream and gets a big audience, they will probably come from the experimental stuff that did not make it big. So there's a lot of that as well.
right. They're the monument everybody sees from the hub at the end of the road, right?
Yeah, I kind of lost track what I was saying, but yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's interesting to talk about improvisation and jazz and games because it is something like that can kind of be done in game, but not easily because I mean, like that temporary nature of improvisation you can't get with game,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's all recorded. It's all
yeah,
permanently there. I suppose theoretically you could build some like hyper modular system, but then it's not the artist playing jazz; it's the computer, right? Um,
yeah.
uh, I guess that
You can have some improvisation by yourself when you're making it, but then you pick out the good bits and rework stuff, I guess.
right. You'd have to
But maybe like you're making a project and you don't know where you're going. There's some improvisation there.
you'd have to delete the delete button. It just you have to keep
Yeah.
everything in no matter what, no matter what. Um, yeah, it'd be an interesting experiment, but it's I mean it's the nature of the medium. It's got limitations. It's not that's why we have different artistic mediums and we have different things. But it is cool that we can get condensed indie projects that are maybe it's not a live immediate improvisational performance, but hey, I only spent 3 months on this. It just here you go. It came out of the fingertips as quickly and good as possible. Enjoy.
Yeah.
um, I like that. Since you're very down this road of absurd, strange indie games, where do you go to find interesting things? Where or do they just come to you now?
Like for stuff that I play
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. If you want, if
that I
you,
make.
yeah, finding games that are if you are tired if anybody watching is very tired of their AAA stuff or even the AA indies or whatever, where do you find the weird?
I do. I guess just the developers that I follow these days, just from online, either Twitter or Itch or Steam, and then what they're talking about usually would connect me to some new game or something, just an image. But yeah, I don't really. I wish I had a better answer, like some sort of magazine or something, or like a website. But there are a few, but it's not like any major thing. There's Warp Door has a lot of good stuff. Um,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
could
don't have a
respect.
good answer for that stuff.
Um,
Yeah,
chat says they found good works from listening to you. So I guess pay attention to creators is probably creators are generally far down that road. Um, See what they're talking about. Um,
yeah, because there's like a genuine excitement about finding something interesting. I guess, through the whole. One thing I did was on Twitter at least, I unfollowed like every publisher, every press, every label. Just
Hmm.
unfollow all those people. Fuck them, because they're doing like the PR stuff. It's like, oh, holidays, Valentine's, new meme or whatever. It's not. Just follow the people, and it's like way less boring in that sense.
Yeah. Having properly curating your social media is really important. I
Yeah,
I now only follow people who have been on the show, and my feed is much more interesting for it. Um,
yeah.
the
I wish there was like a better source that wasn't social media, but I guess
right.
social media does have its
Do do
good
you
side.
do you trust the Steam algorithm to like start delivering that stuff once you head down that path?
Nah,
No.
like Sludge Life's more, the more like this
Hmm.
section. So it's games where like are like Sludge Life. If you check it, it's probably like I don't even know, like some million selling
Let's see.
game, like open world. Like, it's like GTA 5 or something. It's probably like that. It's not definitely not going to be any game that's actually
Are you
feels like
ready? Are
Sludge
you
Life
ready?
at
Are
all.
you ready?
They're actually checking. Probably like
You're not gonna fucking guess. It says Portal 2 and No Man's Sky.
yeah, there you go.
Oh, also Sea of Thieves, Far Cry 5, and The Outer Worlds. Mwah. Perfect.
Yep,
Just like
there you go.
just like
And if you go
Sludge Life.
to like the one game I hear a lot that's similar to Sludge Life is Umurangi Generation that came like around the same time. People are always like, ah, photography. If you haven't played it, you should play it. It's like probably my favorite game from last year. And that probably has the same
All
suggestions
right. Yeah.
or
No.
like
No.
really
Yeah.
close,
It's a
but
lot. It's
there's
a,
no way one's gonna suggest the other,
no. No. It's a lot like Power
right?
Wash Simulator, American Truck Simulator, and Fallout 4. Right? Yeah. I get it.
There you go.
That's
But
amazing.
they're just always gonna suggest stuff that's already selling a lot. I guess
Mm,
if I ever have a game that sells a lot, they're gonna suggest it.
right.
But it's it's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, God, I mean, I don't want to turn it into a platform conversation, but yeah, that man, it's discoverability is hard. I mean, it's tough. Did you find, compared to your other releases, having Sludge Life out in the wild for so long before you hit the platforms helped?
You mean like having it
I mean, because it was on
on
Epic,
Epic for
Epic
free,
for a
or
year, and then you hit the other platforms. Like, I think about like it's so hard now. Like, you have to come to Steam with an audience. If you don't, then you're toast. Um, so I'm curious if you noticed any change between, I guess High Hell would have been the
no,
previous. No, nothing. No, no difference.
no, no. Because I guess it's hard to say. It's hard to have expectations for Sludge Life selling
Mm.
after we gave it away for a year. But giving it away was the launch. Like we were not. It was already like I was done. That was great for me.
Hmm.
A lot of people played it, and we didn't have to. I wish every game I made was free, because like it's
Yeah.
so much. It feels so much better to just tell people to play instead of having to pay. Like if in a perfect world,
Right.
every game was free and that's it. But yeah,
Right. There's that we don't have
but
any of that
we'll
weird
see.
artist guilt where it's like, hey, is my work worth the $5 I'm asking for it, or you know free is a nice.
Yeah, I mean, I did get paid for it, just
Yes.
for people that I was asking to play. It was free, so it was much easier. It was like, especially when it's Sludge Life is kind of hard to pitch, especially before we released it, right? So just going like, hey, it's a open world graffiti, weird. A lot of people feel lost at first, but it's free. Like you can try it. If you don't like it, it's fine. It's much easier than expecting them to fork over $10, $15.
Right.
I did have like another Wonder game before this one, where you just walked around in the garbage. It was just like a island of garbage, and it had a lot of animals and stuff. You didn't talk to anyone. There wasn't anyone to talk to, but it was only on itch. It was like way less polished, and it was also free. But like you didn't, you know, that was just a little thing. If you like Sludge Life, maybe you'll like it. Like
Okay. I'll,
it's
I'll,
fun.
I'll take a look.
It's called Mundo Lixo.
Do you, now the pollution theme, now this is it's hit twice, and I mean it hits a bit in High Hell as well. Is this something that you
Yeah.
like are? I mean, it feels it's like a stupid question, but do you care? Like, is this something that you're actively you concerned about?
Yeah, but it's more about living in São Paulo. Like it's literally how I felt living in the garbage. Yeah, it was like a really smoggy, dirty city, honestly, and it just kind of just a reflection. The one weird thing about Sludge Life is like, for me, it's really personal to where I grew up and lived, and for those, it's the same. And I got a lot of people who are like, "This is my hometown," and they live like in Houston or something, or Dallas, or in Europe. So it just kind of an abstraction of feelings of a place, and you just work for a lot of different places, I guess, even if it's just exaggerated or cartoonish. So it's I do care, but I have I guess helplessness type feelings about it. Like I recently moved. I live in nature now, so I'm definitely somewhere else.
Good.
But that's where I came from.
When you were recalling the inspirations for Sludge Life and growing up in Sao Paulo, um, did you expect that the rest of the world would connect with the themes of over urbanization, or did you think it would be?
Yeah, yeah, because most of the world is capitalist, so we all have the same, you know, capitalism is the same for most people, you know, just different, I guess. You can just be in different spots in the chain or the pyramid, but most people are gonna be near the bottom, yeah. So we're all gonna feel that. And there's like a lot of things, like the cigarettes.
Mm.
Like I used to smoke a lot. When I was in my early 20s, I was like 2 packs a day, and then I quit over 10 years ago. But I still constantly think about cigarettes,
Mm-hmm.
so it just became a thing in the game. And even though I don't smoke at all anymore, and people probably think that I'm chain smoking all the time. It's just like this. And every time I draw a character, like they're not doing anything, I end up doing like a cigarette in their hand just because it's like a natural. Like you stop at the bus stop when I just smoke, you just put a cigarette out just because of the compulsiveness of it, and it became a compulsion in drawing, and I guess in framing characters, and then from that the whole cigarette thing came to be. It was never like a something I planned or anything. Although I do think when you think about like the stuff that we choose to like or care or consume, that it's actually really shitty. Cigarettes are a great example or symbol
Mm-hmm.
of it. So that kind of fit perfectly.
I always
Some people probably look at the surface and think it like the game actually condones smoking or something.
right.
It's not entirely wrong, but yeah.
I often felt I have very similar experience, and I often felt like if I'm not smoking, I'm just standing there, and I can feel like it's the same way with
Yeah,
the art. Right?
exactly.
It's just a character standing there. I need them to do something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But as I quit and as I grew older and everything, I slowly became like more okay with just doing nothing. Do you, as,
yeah.
are you has that have you felt that vibration like toned down a little bit over the 10 years?
No, no,
Still that?
no. Yeah, to smoke other stuff or yeah, like the mushrooms. Definitely take mushrooms. That's
Mm-hmm.
like we're actually condoning mushrooms. Do take the mushrooms and actually spray paint walls. Yeah, people have sent me pics of their first tags. They were like, "Hey, I started tagging my city because of Sludge Life." It's like, yeah, cool, do it. If you get caught, you're on your own. But yeah, do it.
Do you, oh god, there's so many questions. The I've never gone tagging. Um, I have some friends who have, uh, but where what is the satisfaction for you in it, and what is it like, for lack of a better term, what does it represent in the game? The reclaiming of the environment, or
It's kind of fuck your laws. Like you don't really care. Oh, you can't paint here. It's like you can say whatever you want, and I can do whatever I want. Like a lot of rules and society in general is just imaginary, right?
mm,
But for like a lot of graffiti artists, is like I'm not a graffiti artist because I do murals, and through doing murals, I've worked with a lot of graffiti artists and made friends with them. But I'm very anxious. So like if I'm at somewhere, like I need to be chill to work, so it never clicked for me. But there was like a lot of community and friendship for them in that sense, and we try to get that the game in that way. And also just a way to get out of your apartment and kind of have fun in the streets, in that sense. But also the whole artist side of it, which is doodling and having your finding your style. There's a lot of that as well.
what made you move out to nature, or when how long have you been out in nature,
A couple of months now.
and how
Um,
is it?
good. First day we were here, like we woke up and my daughter was like, "Hey, there's a big spider in the living room," and I was like, "Shit!" And then it's like this huge spider, and I'm trying to catch it and got under the couch. My wife got it, and then we checked with like a friend, and it was like one of the most dangerous spiders in the world. It's like the Brazilian wandering spider. It's like super aggressive. You actually die if it bites you or something. But other than that, it's just way more chill. You can just walk around and a lot of bugs, but way more chill. Yeah, but also like we were stuck in the apartment for a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years, and it was just exhausting and expensive and exhausting. And now we're just chilling. Yeah,
How has the
but
environment
we've been talking about it for a long time. And go ahead.
I was going to say, how has the change in environment started to change your routine?
Well, right now the big issue is that like electricity is not as good. So I have a desktop, and I mentioned to you like when there's a lot of tourists here and they all arrive at like at 6 7 p.m. and they take their showers. my computer turns off, so I can't work during those hours.
Forced
And but
break.
internet's actually pretty good, which is I was expecting it to be really shitty. Then my graphics card died, and it's like there's no you can't really buy a graphics card. But I guess the prices are like
Right.
crazy expensive for everyone anyways. So I don't have a graphics card anymore. I'm just playing the game at like 300 by 200 or
Right.
something. My current prototype. I'm not even joking. But yeah, that's my process these last couple of months. But still really chill. Like I wake up and drink coffee in the hammock. Monkeys come, toucans, so it's worth it.
So I do usually ask my international guests, what is the development community like in Brazil in general? Is there much of one,
Mm.
or
Like where I live now,
I mean, I don't
there's
actually
like
in the nature, but
yeah, um, some Brazil in general has like really good people, uh, really good devs, but like the the big companies are probably making mobile games that are not the type of mobile games that I like mobile games, but not that type of mobile games. They probably have like 300 people in their
right,
studio and they make, not even joking, like 200 games a year, 400 games a year. And they're worth like billions of dollars, like these companies, even though you probably never heard of them. So there's like a few of those, and they're like the big successful game devs. But then you have the smaller ones that actually make things I'm interested in, but it's not a ton of them like in other places. And I'm kind of disconnected from a lot of it. I think I do like to follow um what they're making, but I'm kind of on my own for some reason. I think I'm old.
no, no, I there's definitely something to somewhat of isolation in creativity. You tend to have fewer influences and thus tend to end up a little bit more original. I find.
I think like in the real world, like if I can get out of the house to have a beer, I'll probably just meet my old friends because I don't see them that much anymore. So for that reason, I end up not going to the meetups. Some people had meetups and stuff before the the whole stuff, but yeah, but they make good stuff though.
Um, right on. Well, I guess uh, as we wind down, um, I don't expect you are working on new stuff, which is very exciting. And
Yeah.
where should people? I mean, your Twitter's on the screen, but where should people? What do you? Is there anything you think people should take a look at? Maybe some of your older work or other people's work that you think is interesting.
Um. Yeah. I mean, play Spelunky. Um. I Miami. The classics. But like my stuff is all on
Oh,
itch.
yeah, sure. I'm gonna drop the link for everybody right
So
there.
I guess on my
Oh yeah, you do have a bunch of stuff on the
Terri
side.
V.itch.io.
Yeah.
So like I put all my games in there. So like everything that's on Steam, it's on there. There's some old stuff. Samurai Gun Choose coming out. I've played it. It's amazing. And I got something that's pretty different coming like next month, but it's not what I usually make. So it's gonna be fun as well. But I can't say what it is. Yeah. And I'm planning on doing like some sort of behind the scenes thing with Sludge Life because I did it a little bit with High Hell and I thought it was fun. Just kind of showing like the character controller or just like moving
Hmm.
the scene file around because I love seeing that stuff from other people. So I'm trying to do that myself. But it's been hard because my computer is really shitty and like the Unity project is like really heavy. I'm trying to find a way to do it. It's probably not going to be like a video, but that's also on the line.
That's
If
exciting.
people have anything they want to see, I can try to add that to the list.
That's good. Um, right on. Yeah, I've thrown your itch on the. I'm now seeing what you mean about recurring characters. As I look through some of these, I see the Goblin Uzi prototype there. Oh, was this after? No, this is 2016. Yeah, this is 2016. This is was significantly before Sludge Life. Um,
Are you looking at the trash one? Like the trash one has a lot of
yeah,
fauna
there's
that
Mandalixo
would.
here.
Then there's one called Goblin
Uzi,
Uzi,
yeah, that's what
right?
I'm looking at, and I see what you're.
Which, and then in Sludge Life there's a goblin called Uzi.
Yeah.
So like I reuse a lot of that stuff for sure. Actually, the ghost in Sludge Life, like the tag,
Mm-hmm.
was just me reusing an
This
enemy
one.
from a prototype. So
Okay.
I needed like a yeah that one. I needed it, and I just picked it up from another prototype, and then we just left it. Like we just built a game, made the character called Ghost just because I had this one enemy from something else that I reused. That's just kind of how we roll. Yeah.
That's good. I think I'm gonna have a little bit of fun digging through this stuff because I didn't know you. Do you like itch, or is it just a dump? Like, do you engage with itch? Like, it's a platform I've neglected quite substantially, but I'm slowly starting to get into throwing
Yeah,
things
I
on
love
it.
Itch. I love Itch. Yeah. I actually get a lot of games on Itch instead of Steam.
Hmm.
I the Itch app is pretty good. Like yeah, a lot of stuff. And I get all the sock pop games.
Oh
I get them all on Itch.
yeah,
Just
man, those guys are nuts. Oh god, I love. I
yeah,
gotta get.
they're amazing.
I want to have one of the sock pop guys on. I just want. I've had some conversation with them, but I really got to dive into like how the hell you crank out that much good content over and over and over again.
Yeah, I had a chance to meet them in PAX.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
good.
yeah. That's where I met them too. There's the strange thing as I'm noticing, like a lot of there's been a couple of indie games recently that are like almost exactly what they had put out in like a month, but now they're like other people have been like I'm not saying people are copying or anything like that, but I guess if you just keep putting out that much content, eventually you're gonna have some idea overlaps, and I'm like, god damn, how do they have this many good
Yeah,
ideas?
I have like weird feelings about copying
Hmm.
because I feel like it's pretty natural. It's just part of how it goes. You just kind of gotta give it some space. Just let the other person release their thing and have the shot, and afterwards it's fair game, in my opinion. Like a lot of my work that I've done before, I've been okay with releasing high res stuff for free for people to do whatever. I wish I could do it with my games, but like I use tools that I can't release at all, and everything else is just a mess. But I think it's good. I think it's good that people are inspired by sock pop and not Assassin's Creed or
Right,
whatever.
right.
They're actually really good games for kids. It's like really hard to find games for kids,
Really,
and a lot of their stuff is
right.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a bit of that. It's a little on the cute side aesthetically, but I mean,
Yeah, it's not even that. It's like a lot of it's not really long, so like a kid can just play whatever for 10 minutes. Some of it's like really sandboxy,
mhm.
so you can just hey press buttons, and they're like pressing buttons for 10 minutes, and then they're done. And it's not like oh the kitty is gonna save the world, the princess kitty or whatever. So like I love that stuff.
That's cool. Good. Good. I'm glad somebody else appreciates them because they're wild. Um, damn. Yeah. So check out Sockpuff in addition to Terry's itch page. Yeah, man. I think that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us and having fun. And it was a good chat. I'm really glad you came.
Thank you. It was
Guy,
fun.
yeah, guys, I'm gonna. I don't know where I'm gonna send you. I'll find some developer and you guys over there, and I'll see you tomorrow. We'll do more VR work, I guess. See you later.